Hey guys, I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds, and let's talk about House of the Dragon Episode 3. I think that this was one of the coolest choreographed things in Game of Thrones, in House of the Dragon. That run through at the end was sick. We open up with the Stepstones. We have that soldier getting all geeked up, and he's like, oh, Prince Daemon, and then he gets smashed by the dragon. But I've been saying this, Daemon is a Westeros master of PR. Daemon knows exactly how things look, and that's exactly why he does what he does when he smashes that guy's head in. He knows what to do. They talk about it with Robert Baratheon all the time, where Robert Baratheon had this booming voice that he on the battlefield, he was great at that. Was he a great ruler? No. And I was talking about this with my buddy Poncho, who I talked about all of my Game of Thrones stuff because he pays attention to me and understands what I'm saying, and I don't know why he puts up with me. But King Viserys, who I think is a total goober, and with all the information we had prior to the show, I always thought King Viserys was a goober. He was like vulnerable and he trusts too many people around him, where King Robert is the opposite. Robert was just going to smash your face in. They both aren't suited to rule, but where one is a goober who trusts everybody, Robert didn't trust anybody and just wanted to punch people in the face. And where are you getting all these crabs, sir? I knew essentially, if you guys weren't picking up on what the crab feeder was doing, he was putting soldiers out at low tide and allowing them to not only be eaten by crabs, but drown when it was becoming high tide. So you were watching it come in on you, which is like horrifying and scary and not cool. But when he was actually like putting the crabs on them, I was like, oh, you're really going out of your way. You're really living up to your name. And like I said in my last review, crab feeder that's a name to live up to. But then until you see it, you're like, oh, wow, rough. I'm loving the different dragon designs, and I like that Caraxes, we'll call him that, I guess. I like that he's snake-like, and I like that his sounds are different from how Daenerys' dragons sound, and I'm sure we're going to get more. Now, once again, I got hyped up and thought we got to see Vhagar. That's not Vhagar. We're pretty sure that's Sea Smoke. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. So essentially, we find out that down in the Stepstones, things are not going well, and that they're using these caves to avoid the dragon fire. So they're just picking people off. When we had Daemon enter on Caraxes and start lighting things up, that was such a cool shot. That was sick. That was awesome. I really loved it a lot. The shots, even from inside the cave, were super cool and super well done. Now, when they were shooting this is what I mean when I was saying in the other review when King Viserys says, we can't control them. Now, it's just like in the scene in Game of Thrones when Jorah tells Daenerys they're dragons. And they snap at her for a second. That's true, but it's not. It's almost like warging, how the Starks are with their wolves, where they have a really strong connection with them. And if you notice, I loved when Caraxes was putting his wings up like a shield, and it's like him and Daemon it's like an avatar. Like he can feel kind of how Daemon's feeling, or listen how Daemon is going. When Daemon gets hit, that's when the dragon starts screeching, and then he takes off. And that, I don't know if they did that on purpose and had Viserys say, like, we can't control them. And to an extent, that's true, but also there's a super deep connection between them and their dragon, like they showed with Daemon and Caraxes. They are doing a really good job with the time jumps, and we jump to Alicent being super knocked up, and all I could think for this woman, and you guys know that I think this is the first time where I think Alicent Hightower is finally making the switch to like being super plotty in this, after Viserys says to her, you think I wanted to remarry? Do you think I really wanted to do that? And she's like, oh my God, like I'm standing here super knocked up. You got me out in this. All I could think was, how uncomfortable is this girl in this wheelhouse back in olden times? It probably stinks. You're knocked up as hell, and you're probably pissed, and it's hot. That's all I could think for her at first. But I do think that she's starting to get plotty and schemy and pissed. And I definitely think that she was trying to be like on Rhaenyra's side until Viserys said that to her. So many things could be fixed with just like a line of dialogue in a lot of different things, and I think their writing is very good in this, of that, and especially with the time jumps and them going, okay, he's 2 years old. But I really like the nod to being 2 years old, because in the books, the wildlings, they bring that up several times. They don't name their children until they make it to 2, because they normally don't, and they don't want to give it a name to get attached to it. Gilly, Sam's girlfriend in Game of Thrones, Jon's BFF, first off, she doesn't name her son Sam. She names her son Aemon after Maester Aemon because he looks out for her. And so does Sam, but she names him Aemon. I just want that for the record because I love Maester Aemon. But I liked that little nod, and they bring it up a couple times of like, oh, he's 2, yada, yada, yada. But either way, I thought that was a cool little Easter egg for book readers. But either way, they're doing a really good job with showing the time jumps. And now there's a male heir. I don't understand why they're acting like... Notice how, like I said, I don't understand why nobody is saying these things, and we're just acting like it's totally okay. Marrying your brother or your sister to the Targaryens is totally fine with them. That's not the issue. I don't know why King Viserys is acting like a betrothal is so strange. Like, it wouldn't be strange. Whether they're 10 or 9 or 12 or 14, it's not a strange thing to go, hey, you can betroth them. It doesn't mean anything's going on. It just means, hey, that's who I'm going to marry down the line. That's why, and I always bring this up, Daenerys is so taken back and so offended and so scared when she has to marry Khal Drogo, because for her whole life she's been told, I'm going to marry you, Viserys. So not only was it a huge betrayal for him to sell her off to Khal Drogo, but she's like, you were the person I was supposed to be with. That's our tradition. That's what we do. And you're going to give me away? So that's why it's even more of a big deal to her, and even like more messed up in her mind, because the Targaryens are so used to doing this. But I thought that was very weird that he's 2. And it's like, okay, but notice that I did appreciate that they didn't say like, marrying your sibling ain't weird, but it would solidify things. What have we been talking about over here? The Hightowers are dirty, sneaky rats. Alicent Hightower, Otto Hightower, the Hand of the King. Now, that guy who's talking to him at this kid's birthday is his older brother. Remember what Daemon says back to his brother in the throne room. He's like, he's a younger brother. He don't get shit, so he's trying to make his own way, and he's doing whatever he wants, and yada, 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 because he's a second-born son, which means you don't get nothing. He's talking to Otto Hightower's talking to his older brother. His older brother from Old Town, from the Hightowers, is going, well, then you're going to make him see it that way, right? You're going to make him put Aegon on the throne, right? And by naming his son Aegon the second is a huge deal, because you are saying, I'm naming him after Aegon the Conqueror. That's a big name. Like having these twin Lannisters, because twins normally do run in families. We have twin Lannisters in Game of Thrones. We have twin Lannisters here. I like that they're identical, because you could do some really cool plotty things by having an identical twin. But we have the creepy one, and we have the one that keeps telling King Viserys, we got shit hitting the fan. And you have to remember that Lannisport and Casterly Rock, they are also on the coast, so they're going to get hit hard by the Stepstones situation. So that's why he's so like, bud, we need you to step in here. It makes you look weak. And if you notice throughout the episode, everybody is telling Viserys, you look weak. You look weak. Even the women that are sitting there being complacent are going, well, it looks really weak of the king to do that. And that's why when we get later on in the episode, Alicent Hightower tells King Viserys, like, yeah, it could just look like a brother going to help a brother. And she's trying to tell him, to go help. But the truth is, everybody's saying, you look weak as hell. Oh, I've been avoiding this after the show stuff. I've been avoiding anybody else talking about this. I try to do that with everything that I talk about. I try to avoid whatever anybody else is saying, but I don't know if other people are talking about this. But the costuming, I think, is very telling, that Rhaenyra in the first 2 episodes and Daemon in the first 2 episodes are heavily wearing bright red and dark, dark black. Viserys, the king, is always wearing like almost, it's not a faded black, but it's not as popping. I don't know how to put it, because it's black, so but you guys know what I mean. It's almost like a faded black, and then he always has like tiny bits of red. And I keep saying this, that Viserys is denying what he is. When Olenna Tyrell says, are you a sheep? No, you're a dragon. Be a dragon. Viserys is denying what he is. Daemon and Rhaenyra do not. This is the first episode where we see Rhaenyra in mostly black or gray, but she still has all the dragon scales, which was super sick, and I really liked that a lot. But I don't know if that's a choice that the costume department is making, but Abby's seeing it that way, so I really like that. Alicent Hightower's really rocking that red hard. So it's like, okay, I'm a big deal now. And that, you have to remember, she's been queen for a couple years now. I also really liked the scene where Rhaenyra is sitting in the Godswood. Now, okay, we'll get into that in a second. There wouldn't be a weirwood tree in the south. They tore them all out. There's a Godswood. There's a place where they allow the people from the north to go and pray, but I don't believe there's a heart tree there. I'm pretty sure they tore them all out, but that could have happened later in time. I'll have to look into it. But I really liked that scene, and that's the first time we get to see Alicent Hightower being like, who really has more power, me or you? I think she means it when she's like, man, we could just work together and this could be good. Like, can we just make this happen? Like I said in my other reviews, I think that Alicent Hightower is, to me, with before the show version of Alicent Hightower, not the sneaky rat that I think she is, that we get in the books that we have. In the show, I genuinely think that she's complacent. She's going, this is how the world works. This is what happens with women. Why can't you just get on board with that? Just do it. Just be a cog in this machine and everything will go smoother. And Rhaenyra's like, no, I'm not doing that. Right before that, we have Viserys going, where's Rhaenyra? And the Kingsguard goes, I don't know. Why doesn't the Kingsguard know where the royal family is? Somebody should be with the royal family at all times. But I also think that may play into why Kristen Cole went after her so quickly during the hunt, because he's like, okay, I already misplaced you once. I don't want to do it again. And if you know your Westerosi history, the song that the minstrel is singing is about Nymeria and her 10,000 ships when she came over to Westeros. And that's who Arya's wolf is named after. Nymeria was a warrior queen who brought her people over, and then when she finally that's why the Martells can inherit. That's why allow women to inherit, is because of Nymeria. Nymeria came over with her 10,000 ships, married a Martell, and then was like, okay, in showing that we are going to stay here, we're going to burn all our ships. But she was a warrior queen that saved her people. So that's a little bit of an Easter egg. Alicent Hightower is listening in on a lot of conversations that are going on, not just between her and her husband, but between lots of people, and it's almost as if a lot of the men are just going, you can't play the Game of Thrones, so I'm not as worried about you, but you should be. I definitely think that at first Alicent Hightower's like, no, let's just make this work, let's just do this, and can we all just pretend to get along at least? And I think that she genuinely wants her friendship back, but it's gone too far, and she definitely does show some I'm above you tendencies. We have an argument between King Viserys and Rhaenyra, and she's like, I don't mean nothing to you anymore. I don't matter anymore. You guys are going on this essentially the hunt is like this big birthday party to show off the new boy that was born. That's what they're doing. And she's like, you don't need me. You don't need me, so cut the shit, Dad. And I liked that between them. And I think Viserys genuinely loves his daughter. I just think he doesn't know what I think he's a goober. They first end their procession and get to the hunt and get to the campsite. Who's the first one yelling? He says, I have it wrote down, he says, Hail Aegon, the Conqueror Babe, here on his second name day. That's some heavy words to be saying. And Rhaenyra doesn't even come out of the Pelican. She doesn't even come out. But that's a big, bold statement to make. That's the Hand of the King's older brother saying that. And everybody's cheering. And they're all cheering for this male heir's birthday that they think, oh, great, you'll get the Iron Throne now, not her. When we get into the camp and we see all the women sitting together just talking, like I said, this is just the complacency of all these ladies. They're just complacent with their position. And I like how they're just sitting there, and Rhaenyra comes in and is like, polite. I love polite shit talking, like I said in my last review, so I really liked that when she came in and is like, yeah, okay, and what do you do? Nothing. But I think Alicent Hightower really is trying to back her friend up, and she's like, I think Rhaenyra will be a good ruler. I think she's genuinely trying to back her up. Like I said, I don't think Alicent Hightower makes a flip until later on in the episode. I don't think she makes a full flip until later on in the episode. The guy that shows up with the jacked up foot that sits with the ladies who are all gossiping about all types of information, what do you think he's doing? Do you think he just wants to hang out with ladies? No, he's using his impairment as a way to listen in on all this stuff. His brother or dad he's Lord Lionel, the Master of Laws, the bigger guy with the white dude with the beard who talks to King Viserys a couple times. He's the one who tells him to marry Corlys's daughter. In the other episode, that's his family, chilling with the ladies, listening to all the gossip and all the info that they have. So he wasn't just hanging out with them for kicks. He was over there collecting information, making it seem like, oh, I'm not important, but really, no, you are. You're telling information back to your family. From all the people talking at this birthday party hunt are all saying it's war. It is war. Whether or not he wants to say there's war, it's war. We're showing feasts, we're showing gluttony, we're showing all this stuff, and everything's great and dandy. And then we have this huge issue going on, and things are about to get real serious. But as of right now, you guys are just living the life. But the truth is, people think you're weak. In the beginning, we have the first Lannister twin telling him, you need to handle this. And he's like, shut up. And then we have the second Lannister twin, who's a super creep, and is like, I'm going to marry Rhaenyra. And then she gets all pissed off when she realizes what he's saying. Also, Casterly Rock does not have a wall that's taller than the wall. The wall is 700 feet high. What are you talking about, sir? I don't know if you're just hammered. There's a lot of drunken talk that shouldn't have been happening in this episode, so I think it might have just been like, I'm trying to compensate for something. That's what I'm saying. Rhaenyra and King Viserys fighting in front of everybody is not a good look. That makes you look divided, which you are. I didn't realize how many people didn't know about white stags, and there's a couple different things. In Celtic lore, it can mean a transgression or change or a taboo of something changing. Now, that is happening with Rhaenyra taking over, but normally it's brought up in Game of Thrones when Joffrey says he's going hunting, and Sansa says something to her friend where she's like, and he's going to give me the White Hart, and he's going to bring it back to me, and yada yada. You never kill the White Hart, ever, ever. And this goes all the way back to King Arthur. You touch it, and you leave it be. And Sansa even says it. She's like, in all the stories, or one of her friends says it to her, in all the stories, they just touch the White Hart and let it go on its way. You don't kill it. Like, it shows itself to you if you're like the special one or the chosen one. King Arthur. Also, having an all-white pet is normally a key give-off of you're the hero. Jon Snow with Ghost. Harry Potter and Hedwig. Gandalf and Shadowfax. This is a thing. King Arthur and his dog. King Arthur and his horse. But if you see a white stag, it's a big deal and it means you're special, but you never kill it. I also definitely think that they want there to be some reminiscence between Daenerys and her silver and Rhaenyra on her horse. Khal Drogo's gift to Daenerys on their wedding is a horse, which is a big deal, but that's her silver. Her silver is a big deal. And it's a huge deal in the books. It's a huge deal in the show. It's a big deal. But I definitely think that they're trying to have a little bit of reminiscence of that. Which is fine. I'm totally not hating on that. But I'm not. But her and her dad get in a fight. She runs off. Kristen Cole chases after her. And that's the thing, too. At least Robert hunted. At least Robert actually hunted. You know what I mean? He, like, went out and actually hunted boar and stuff. And I liked the scene I liked the scene of her actually killing something versus her dad, who has them holding something down while he stabs it. Once again, looking super weak. When he comes back to camp, everybody who was with him knows, oh, we held this animal down while you stabbed it. She comes back to camp, her and one of the Kingsguard, and she's covered in blood, and she's bringing back her own kill. That's saying something to the people. Not only that, she's the one who actually sees the White Hart. You know what I mean? But the king's getting way too hammered. He's saying stuff that he shouldn't. He's saying stuff that when Jason Lannister comes up and he's like, well, it would show strength. And he's like, do we need strength? And so that's what I mean. They keep bringing this theme of you have no strength up to King Viserys. He's getting hammered, saying stuff he shouldn't. He's standing by the fire. And he even says it later on in King's Landing. He's like, oh, yeah, man, I drank way too much last night. Almost like he doesn't remember. And when he's talking, imagine being super knocked up like that. And then your husband's like, I never wanted to get remarried. I never wanted to do none of this. You would be like, what? And so then that's where I think Alicent is like, okay, I'm done here. Now I'm going to fight for my kids, and I can't hate on that. Like I said, Rhaenys is my favesies. I'm just going off of the show right now. I know we all have our favorites, and I like Rhaenyra, and in this show, Alicent I sympathize with, but I do still think you're a sneaky rat, and I think this is going to be her official sneaky rat flip of like, okay, I kind of got groomed into this situation, and now I'm finding out you don't even like me like that. So now at least I thought you really actually cared about me before, and I do think Viserys cares, but now she knows you never really loved me. This was just a thing you wanted to do. Viserys and Otto Hightower talking, that's when he brings up the betrothal to make it stronger to Aegon, even though he's 2. And like I said, I like that they don't comment on the fact that they're siblings, because that isn't weird to the Targaryens. But he's like, he's 2. And like I said, I think it shouldn't matter. It's not like they're getting married when he's 2. They would get married way down the line. So I'm like, I don't know why the king acted like that was so odd and strange. But I did like when he said to him about the Lannisters, he said, that man's pride has pride, because that's a Lannister thing. Like I said, King Viserys was drinking way too much, and it's almost exactly like the same scene with Daemon in the brothel when he was getting too drunk and all the sound starts to muffle and it gets all quiet and he feels completely alone. Now, what does Maester Aemon say? Even in the books, he says it in the first series, a Targaryen alone is a dangerous thing. But this Master of Laws is the only one giving good advice, and he's like, you need to marry her to Corlys' son, the one that we see later on, and spoiler warning, that does happen. When Rhaenyra says to Kristen Cole, will the realm ever accept me as their queen? Will you ever accept me as your queen? And he says, I have no choice but to. Jeez. That's not a yes or a no. That's a I have to. And like I brought up, the boar, the symbolism of her actually killing something versus her dad, her seeing the White Hart, the stag, that's a big deal. And him not seeing it, that's all very symbolic. And then, like I said, you have to remember off of what people are seeing. Also, I don't trust these midwives. These midwives look super sneaky. These midwives, I'm putting them in the same category as maesters. I think they're dirty rats. Look at how they're looking at Alicent Hightower all knocked up. And like I've been saying about maesters, anybody that knows how to heal you knows how to kill you. They're the ones who birth your children. They're the ones who do this. They can make houses rise and fall. And you would never know because you trust them. You go, oh, I'm going to the doctor. And then they're like, oh, something happened. You're like, okay. You normally don't question it. And the way those midwives are acting around Alicent Hightower, I'm like, I don't trust you. And if you know the story of the Dance of Dragons, which this is what this is based on, you know that there's some issues with other characters that go on with them having children. So it's like, are they going to affect that? Or are there really just complications going on? But I don't like the way those midwives look, and I don't like the way they're lurking about. When they were at the fire and the king says that I never wanted to remarry, if you notice, she calls him my love. And then it really takes her back when he's like, I never would have done any of this if I didn't have to. And someone left a really good comment, and I really appreciated this. They were like, fuck King Viserys and killing his wife. And that's true. He did kill her. You chose that. You chose to kill her. And we know this from Melisandre. Prophecies can be fickle things. And a lot of times, prophecies have drove Targaryens insane. So now we have Viserys saying, I've been so obsessed with this prophecy. I want to know, how do book people feel about this? Because all my book friends that I know personally, we don't like this. I feel like them doing the Prince Who Was Promised thing so hard is saying remember the other series? Because this, we're too afraid to let it stand on its own legs. And I'm like, stop reminding people of that. Unless it's going to play into this of Viserys going mad over this prophecy. Because the fandom of the books knows. Aegon never talked about hearing no prophecy, and neither did anybody else. It depends on how you take it, but I always thought that Rhaegar was the one who really took the Song of Ice and Fire seriously, and that's why I have a theory that Rhaegar never loved Lyanna Stark. He just knew that I had to bring ice and fire together, and I don't think he was mean to her. I just think that he knew I have to bring ice and fire together, and he's the only one who does that. And if you hear what Rhaenyra says earlier in the episode about King Viserys marrying her mom, she says, well, it's because the Vale and us were the only way that we could outnumber the North. So it's not like the North is being heavily involved here, but you'd think if you are so obsessed with this ice and fire nonsense, you'd involve the ones around the ice, right? After the hunt, essentially it's a birthday party. After this big birthday party, they go back to King's Landing. King Viserys is like, oh, I drank way too much. Otto Hightower and Alicent are talking right before she goes to her bedroom with the king to chit-chat with him and talk it up. And she's trying to convince him, no, you need to go and help Daemon. You need to go to the Stepstones. You need to do that. He's also telling her way too much. But I get it. That's your wife. But she's reading letters. And like I said, this is still Game of Thrones. You got to watch out for that sneaky shit. But she's the one who's like, you need to send troops down there because everybody's talking shit about us. They think we look weak. And we'll just play it off like a brother helping a brother. They don't really actually care what happens to Daemon and Corlys Velaryon, but I finally appreciate the fact that they are reiterating to the audience, House Velaryon is like Tywin Lannister money-wise times a million. Not only that, his children are dragon riders, his wife is a dragon rider, and he has the biggest army and the biggest fleet in the world. That's pretty big when you're running a country. You have the biggest military and the most money. But neither Corlys nor Daemon sent this letter to King's Landing. It was Corlys's brother who sent it to King's Landing. So it's like, I don't know how long he's going to last. So they don't want the king's help. They don't want that. So they don't want the king's help. So they don't want the king's help. They're just chit-chatting about it. And then I did like that Viserys tells Rhaenyra, and I don't know if they're going to play this off as Rhaenyra might be gay or bisexual, and that's why she's like, I don't like men at all. That's why I haven't thought about it. On top of, I don't want them running my life type deal. That could be a very interesting wrinkle. For sure, it definitely could be. And like I was saying in my other reviews, if you watch them, I was saying that at first it comes off a little groomy from Daemon to her, but then eventually, at the mom's funeral, it looks almost like he's shit. okay. And especially when they talk at Dragonstone, I think he's like, okay, I respect you, and we could be a thing down the line just for the sake of power. Because Daemon's always got his own thing on the side, and Rhaenyra's always has her own thing on the side. Those are always rumors, but that they were never really like with the person they were married to. They were always like going outside of the marriage, and this was a known thing, and everybody was cool with it. But I definitely think it could be interesting to have her just be like, I don't like men at all, and then have it just be strictly political. That could be very interesting. But I like that Viserys told her, you marry whoever you want like I did. I loved their argument back and forth when she's like, you could have done the same thing, and you didn't. You could have married the 12-year-old, which, yeah, it's creepy and weird, but that would have been the smart thing to do, right? Right? And you didn't do that. You did what you wanted, and then he finally is like, okay, fine, then you do what you want. And I think he definitely means it, but I don't know why he's so opposed to the siblings not being together, because you would think that you would want your family to stay together. And like I said, I don't approve of incest, but in the story, it makes sense. And I just don't know why he didn't even bring that up to her as an idea. Now, Viserys is a goober, but he's not. He just trusts too much people. He just trusts too many people, and he's an idiot, kind of. But he's not a. He knows his brother for sure. He knows Daemon for sure, and I think that when he told. I think he knew exactly what Daemon would do, kind of, a little bit. I don't know if he knew to the extent, but also what Daemon does in this is essentially exactly what Barristan the Bold, Barristan Selmy, in the original series, that's what he does at the Stepstones like 100 years later. He just slaughters through everyone, and he's like the Michael Jordan of this fight, and everybody's like, holy shit, look at this guy, and he ends the Blackfire Rebellion. Now, that's a totally different situation, but seeing Daemon do this, I was like, oh my god, this is sick, this is awesome, but it's also giving me Barristan the Bold vibes, and I love it. Definitely think that by saying, personally give this to Daemon in front of everybody, King Viserys thought he was trying to do something there. I don't think he knew fully that Daemon would just go out and win. I didn't think that would happen, but I think he thought this will push Daemon into a dangerous situation, and he might die, and then I can get rid of the Daemon problem. Alas, that is not what takes place. And I loved seeing Corlys and his brother and his son, and I loved when his son called his uncle, he said, you've been nothing but the master of complaints. I loved that. I'm going to use that. We also hear him bring up several times saying the dragons plural, are not, because like I said, they kept saying there's going to be 17 dragons, and I keep feeling like Jurassic Park. I'm like, there are going to be dragons in your dragon show, right? And believe me, I'm loving what we're getting. I'm just like, I want more. But then again, I'm not, that's nitpicking, that's me nitpicking. But he says dragons plural in the very beginning of this, and then he tells his uncle he's the master of complaints. And then you can, like I said, being a master of PR, especially back in these times, you want to be loud, you want the people to hear you, or your soldiers, or the common folk, things look a certain kind of way. So when his brother starts popping off, and he's like, meh, meh, and then Daemon pulls up, and that's why Corlys snatches him up and is like, I don't want a mutiny on my hands, like, do you get this? And not just that, do you know who just pulled up? Then we have the greatest part of the episode, where Daemon gets the letter from his brother, smashes the envoy's head in, and then goes out, and this is what we all were hoping. I think we were all hoping this. I didn't want the crab feeder stuff to be the whole. Some people were trying to say that was going to be the main antagonist, and I was like, there's no way you can draw this out. There's no way that you can draw this crab feeder out for an entire season, and I'm so glad that there was a couple people in the comments who were saying mid-season. I'm like, yeah, I do not want it to go past 3 or 4 episodes with this crab feeder. If it goes past mid-season, I'm gonna be bored with it. And so I'm glad that we're done with him. But damn, this is what I mean about a master of PR. You smashed this man's head in, you went out, you faked a whole surrender, and oh my god, Dark Sister. That's Daemon's sword. That's my favorite sword. My favorite weapon is Robert Baratheon's Warhammer, but my favorite sword is Dark Sister, and that's what Daemon wields. And when he was holding Dark Sister up, I was like, don't you dare put Dark Sister on the ground. I was like, don't you dare do that. And then when he did, and then he stabbed him, I was like, oh my god, it's going down. And that's what I mean from the beginning of the episode, of all the soldiers going like, and even though the one gets crushed, they're all going, Daemon, the Prince of the City, oh my god, you came in to save us. So now the common folk are all going to tell each other that. But not just that, now you guys just watch some guy do the impossible. He just took out everybody, but the truth is he just wanted to get them out of the caves so that they could come in with the dragons, and it was epic. I want to know if Matt Smith did all that run. Did you see how fast he was running? I don't know if they sped that up or not. I don't know if Matt Smith did that. I don't know if a Stunt double did that, but that was sick. That run through was sick. Just the sheer speed he was. Have you ran across sand? This shit's hard. So we have him doing this full run through, taking everybody out, nothing's touching him, and then he finally gets cornered, and that's when the dragons come in. I got all geeked up. I thought it was going to be Vhagar. We're pretty sure that it's sea smoke. And ever since the trailer dropped, you guys know that all I want to do is see Vhagar. Vhagar is my favorite dragon. I love Vhagar, so I got geeked. I thought it was Vhagar. But when I texted that to my buddy, he was like, no, that's sea smoke, because that's the dragon that Corlys' son rides, is sea smoke. Sea smoke is a giant gray dragon that... So they had more than one. They have Caraxes and they have Sea Smoke down there, and they both come in and are just murking everybody. This is what I mean. Do you really think that Daemon needed to chop the crab feeder in half? No. No, he doesn't need to do that. But everybody's going to run back home and go, we watched Daemon pull a Michael Jordan of fights on this beach all on his own, and then cut this guy in half all on his own, and then drag him out of this cave all on his own, and it's going to come off as, in this great PR way. Daemon knows what it looks like. And I swear to God, that was one of the coolest things I've seen in Westeros, including in the Game of Thrones series. And I'm not taking anything away from those at all. Like, the Battle of the Bastards is great. The fight with the Hound is great. There are some great scenes, but Daemon running across that beach, that was sick. And I'm glad we're done with the crab feeder, and now we can go on. And I think I'm gonna get my laptop out, and we're going to talk about this more, and we'll talk about the trailer for the next episode, and we'll break more down. But there's so many little Easter eggs in these that I'm really loving House of the Dragon, and narratively speaking, I really like it a lot. I watched the first episode of Rings of Power. I don't know how everybody's feeling about that, but yeah, let me know what you feel about this episode down in the comments and what you want to see next. Tell me if you're glad that we're done with the crab feeder, because like obviously we're going to get into more of the political stuff in a minute of who should take over, this baby, this guy who just, like I said, it's going to get back to the common folk of like, well, Daemon's a badass, and not only that, he's the one defending us, and he came in and saved us, and this and that, so it's like he's got a good, and he has a claim, and so it's like, this is going to get really interesting, and even for people like me who know this story, we don't know every little detail. But yeah, let me know what you're excited to see. I'm going to finish up the second episode of Rings of Power. I'm also watching the Mike Tyson show that's really good. I know that he came out and said, like, he wasn't a part of it, but he was talking. I don't know if something's going on there, but I feel really bad if they took advantage of Mike Tyson. I don't appreciate that because I love Mike Tyson. But yeah, I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. Hi to the new subscribers. We finally have power. It's been a weird year, honestly. It's been a very weird year altogether. But yeah, I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. It's finally getting cold out again. We can get back to wigs and outfits that I like to wear, and I'm not sweating my nads off. And yeah. Next, I didn't know there were 10 episodes. I thought there was only going to be 8. I'm really liking how they're handling House of the Dragon a lot. I was worried for it, and I still am a little bit, because I worked in a factory for 10 years. I worked around average people, blue-collar workers all the time, and a lot of them thought this was about Daenerys, and a lot of them are saying, we don't want to watch it until we can binge it. So I don't want this to suffer from not having the same amount of viewers. Now, I haven't looked into it. I heard that it's doing great, but I'm like, I don't want it to suffer because it's not the juggernaut that Game of Thrones was, even though it's still doing really, really good, and it is really good. I love what they're doing. I just wish they weren't pushing... I feel like them bringing up the Prince Who Was Promised so much, and I feel like them bringing up the Long Night, because the Long Night is a myth known all over the world. They're not the only ones. Like, Old Nan talks about it in the first episode of Game of Thrones to Bran, of ice spiders, big as hounds, and all this stuff. Like, every culture all over this world, in the East, they all have a story of the Long Night, so it's not like that's anything sneaky, you know? So I'm like, I don't really like that they're pushing this prophecy thing so much, but after this episode, now I'm starting to think like, oh, are you going to use this to drive Viserys mad? Because that's a thing. But yeah, all my stuff is down in the description below. I have some very interesting things going on, so I'll keep you guys posted. But thank you so much to the person. Somebody commented and they were like, are you going to finish your Harry Potter series? I thought nobody gave a shit about my Harry Potter series, and my old videos are blatantly just really bad. Like, but I love them and I keep them up. But I didn't know that. But I have my Harry Potter notes, and I'm going to do Half-Blood, and I'm really excited. So thank you for that comment. What side are you on right now? Does nobody like Daemon? Because my mom literally looked at... We get to the end of the episode and my mom goes, I see why you like Daemon now. And I'm like, I never once said that Daemon was a good guy. Never once did I ever say that Daemon was a good, nice guy. All I said was he's a very interesting, fun character to watch. He's like a royal version of Bronn. He's great. It's like watching Scar from The Lion King. Like, you love to watch him, but it doesn't mean he's the good guy, you know what I mean? But who is contacting me right now? I'm not looking. But either way, apparently people are thinking I'm a nut job for loving Daemon, and I'm like, did you see what he just did? It's sick. He's awesome. He's an awesome character. He's a fun character to watch.